Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Infinity Train Book 4, Duets. So this fourth and apparently final season of Infinity Train kind of harkens back to the first season, the first book, when we got to see someone's life, the problem in it, and then them get on the Infinity Train. It structurally has a lot in common with book one, which I actually really liked. I actually thought when I watched the first one that the second season would be more like this than it, 2 and 3 became. And I really like that about it. I like the kind of low stakes of this. The book one reminded me of something like Inside Out, where they take something that's very personal and make, something that means the world to you, but might, just be like you running away from your parents or getting upset, or you having a band that is falling apart. That might not be, world ending in actuality, but it is maybe world ending or world altering for you. And I like that idea that animation exploring recently, where instead of having these crazy fantasy worlds, we're just looking inward and making inward this like crazy external sci-fi fantasy thing. I think that's actually like a really interesting idea. Infinity Train seems to want to get weirder than Pete Doctor did, which is like hard to do in general, but Owen Dennis is up for it. Basically what this is about is characters Ming and Ryan, and they have been lifelong friends. They've had this band, Chicken Choice Judy, that Ryan is super into, but Ming knows he has to work, go to college. He can't just go off and be in Chicken Choice Judy. And unfortunately, Ryan has gone off and is going on tour and is trying to be this musician, while Ming is stuck in their hometown working at this shitty restaurant. Ryan eventually makes his way back. They meet up. He sees them at this, I think it's like the Humpty Dumpty or whatever, this diner they used to always hang out in. Ryan grabs his keys, runs off, and says, "We should go to New York. I have a show. We can both play and reunite Chicken Choice Judy." And it ends up on the Infinity Train, where they meet Kez, who they then go through the entire train with to try to find their way out, or as she takes them to see her roommate, and they hopefully try to get off the Infinity Train. I like all the books of Infinity Train. I really like this one as well. I know it is very different from 2 and 3. To me, it feels very at home. Much like 1, it is different because although it has a little to do with what's going on with the rest of the train, it doesn't have real connections with the previous seasons. Apparently it takes place in the late 80s, although it could, to be honest, it could take place anywhere between the first 7 years of the 90s or something. Like there's no like real indication. One thing I do like is the idea of having a relationship with someone who you do things creatively with, and having that kind of fall apart, and not because of like they hate each other. I don't actually think they do. I think it is just life, and that's sort of what happens, unless like whatever you do creatively like incredibly blows up. Like people have to move on, people have to find something to do with their lives. They can't just stay in the band or making whatever you're doing together, and that sucks. And a lot of times that other person doesn't want to make that call. I like that this talks about it because I don't know, but I'm 100% guessing this happened to a few of the people who worked on this show with whatever project it was. I don't know if there's a real Chicken Choice Judy, but that's a cool name actually. And the more I'm saying it, the more I like it. It's sad and life moves on, unfortunately. And I kind of love the idea of like, but if we were both on the Infinity Train, would that still be together? Or would we still get to, hang out? Or maybe they would realize this, and it could take two turns on it, like going one way or the other. I like what they did with it, but obviously it's written by the type of personality who would be one. I've definitely been both those guys at one point, so which was interesting. I was like, I can sort of see both sides on this one. But I found that to be really interesting because I don't think we talk about that a lot, and because oftentimes Hollywood has this problem of just thinking, it's so easy to be very successful because it's written by the winners, like history usually is. And this seemed to be written by people who really got the drive for creativity, and how much you sort of need that, and how sad it is to see someone who you're creative with, who can be creative, just like stop that, and how it feels like to you losing a limb, and to them it's like they had to sell that limb to meet family expectations or make money, or they didn't feel like they could keep doing it anymore. And that I thought that was actually a really smart way to do the season, because it's like, you can't have what happened with Tulip again. Like, that would be super boring. Like, which is why I think the show's like, you never know where it's gonna go. But I think this almost felt more radical. This is sort of like the fourth season of The Wire or something. It's like we're moving towards this one direction, and then suddenly they're like, well, we're gonna go this way. And that's something I like about the Infinity Train series, is that you never know exactly what to expect. It does feel, I guess, a little, I noticed that criticism, like the stakes aren't as high and stuff. To me, like, I've been there, so it's like, I can feel the stakes for me. So maybe, y'all have a little different lives there. But I also like what it said about friendship, what it said about the whole moral idea of the train, which I think is something that goes throughout all of it. Like the idea of, you kind of are in this difficult spot that could destroy, everything that's your whole life, like, could be like really emotionally like dwell up in you, and suddenly like you're put in this situation on this infinite train, and you're able to sort of reason with it, which I think is an interesting idea to have with two people, particularly in a band, which I think was cool. I like the idea it was a band, because a band is sort of like a marriage in some ways. I mean, it'd be interesting if they had like an actual couple. Maybe that would have been a little too intense. Maybe they maybe for this show, I'm not sure what the demo is, to be honest with you, but maybe for this show, it made it a little more appropriate to have it about a band that isn't in a romantic relationship. I liked all the various cards in this, like from Pig Baby, voiced by J.K. Simmons, which I swear that he must have picked that role, right? Like, they didn't go for J.K. Simmons for Pig Baby. Maybe they did. I don't know with this show. Like the car where like it has that thing where they'll go through like evolution. All the creatures in the car would go through evolution. Like that was a very heady Infinity Train idea. I like everything they do with Amelia. Apparently those scenes would make more sense if they got to make the book 5 movie thing that we've heard so much about. Although that is disappointing, I still sort of liked, you sort of get what it is. So, I would much rather have, if we can get book 5, the movie, that would be awesome. But if we don't, I sort of like the idea of just learning it from that. I almost like just want to know like what Amelia was doing between this and Tulip. It's also interesting that this is a prequel, but it's a prequel in almost like a better way, because it like didn't feel like it messed anything up. We got this nice little story, and then it sort of moves on, and I found that to be really wonderful about an anthology show, because that's what Infinity Train really is. One might show up every book, I believe he does, but none of the stories are at all the same. And this is not like Tulips. This is not like really any of them, which I thought was sort of wonderful about it. It's probably one of my favorite sort of band shows or movies I've seen a little bit, even though I do not know how anyone would want to listen to that band or how they sound like that, like with that weird like pencil synthesizer thing. Definitely looked really cool, and I might have to get one of those because they're not actually very expensive. But I even had Margaret Cho and Margaret Martindale. They have a crazy good cast in it. I think for me, Infinity Train was always supposed to be different stories of being like kind of like a kid's young adult series. The morals of it was them kind of bettering themselves through the journey through the train and finding themselves and find out who they really wanted to be. And I'm glad that these two guys were able to find out what they wanted their relationship to be through this journey. And if you've seen those kind of relationships, you've seen those people go away for whatever reason, who do things with you creatively, you almost wish you had that chance. And I think it's kind of cool to see in this, rather than the traditional kids thing of showing like, a kid who's having trouble with their parents' divorce, kids who misbehave, like a rich kid who just steals something at a mall. That one feels just low stakes at this point. But it really, I think, spoke to me in a lot of ways. I thought it was really touching and a really wonderful season. I was surprised by that direction, but I think that's sort of what I like about it. I'm happy with the twists and turns of it. I'm not the biggest lore person. I just like story. Lore's cool, but you use lore to catch a fish, and in my mind, the fish you catch is a good story, and that's what I wanted from this. I think this is a wonderful story about a band, a creative partnership, and I think that's something that really worked about this. This is something they really nailed from people who obviously have been in those before and really wanted to say something to it, and in a positive way, because I think those can, especially nowadays, I think people really can think about them negatively, and I think it was kind of like a healthier way to kind of sum up one of those. And it showed me like how much you could really say with Infinity Train. I know everyone's saying, oh, their plan was 8 seasons. after this, I kind of almost feel like I want them to just go as long as they want. I mean, it isn't an infinite locomotive or whatever, so you'd think they could just like keep running forever. But unfortunately, that's the case. I had a wonderful time watching Infinity Train, riding this journey of this whole show. I'm sad to see it go, but I think I wasn't interested in like how much it could push itself and how much it could be dark and all that stuff. I just liked the moral kind of interesting stories that Owen Dennis always had throughout these shows. And I think this one was able to do that in a new and different way, and to do it about a creative partnership. And seriously, I kept thinking, like, how many of these do I read about, like, once a day, about an evil producer or an evil actor or writer, or how this relationship fell apart and stuff. And I think it's wonderful to do that, show it on the train, they come out of it, and it's actually positive. And I think that's actually something maybe we need right now for everyone. You know, it is hard making stuff with someone else or multiple people, whatever you're doing, but I think overall you miss that positive of making something together. And if you can recapture that magic through the Infinity Train, I think that's probably something worthwhile. So if you've seen Infinity Train Book 4 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.